welcome to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm John Dykes, and today I am delighted to be joined by Russell Boyce and Tony Haggerty. Welcome back to the show, gentlemen. There is plenty to discuss. First up, you enjoyed a wee get-together to watch the West Ham game. Tony, what was your thoughts over the 6-2 defeat? And then we can start deconstructing that in preparation for Wednesday night.
I don't normally do shout-outs because it's not what the show's about, but I was asked. So I'm going to say hello to Ian Latta, who we met on Saturday. George, who we met in Chapman's Bar in Rutherglen. He did a picture with myself and Russell and was very complimentary. And the boys from the bar in Rutherglen, who made us all very welcome. They know who they are and bought us a drink as well. So, get that out the road. But
yes, mate.
So very kindly disposed towards the pod and yourself and everybody that appeared on it. So
magic.
Say hello to them.
Love to hear that. Love to hear a bit of positivity and some feedback. Tony.
We know what's coming now.
No, not a time. Well, there's a butt clause now because the West Ham game get on the road.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's what everybody knows about Celtic. We're in desperate need of a goalkeeper. One that can actually save the ball and keep it out the net. Do the basics first. The sweeper keeper can come later. I know Ange prefers that, but he really does need to get someone who can keep the ball out the net first and foremost. Your worries came true about the youngsters in defence and inexperience, but the only way they'll learn is by playing. They won't come up against that calibre of opposition every week. But my goodness, they were cruelly exposed, weren't they?
Aye, they were.
To a side that were finished sixth in the English Premier League, but your deficiencies were laid bare. And all the optimism that you had maybe going to Denmark and getting a result was slowly but surely evaporating over that 90 minutes because there was just so much wrong all over the park. There was some positive stuff too. Going forward, they looked fantastic and at times looked very good, create chances, score some good goals. But, you know, I also said I thought we still need a midfield enforcer. Still think we do. We need another central defender to come alongside Starfelt when he eventually comes in and Julian. And I still think we need two forwards, two strikers. And
well, that's a great shout, Tony. We're going to, as I say, assemble a kind of wish list as we talk through this bulletin. But we do have an announcement. We do have an announcement to make. Just along the ticker tape, you will see that A Celtic State of Mind, the award-winning Celtic broadcast, now has a new sponsor. We have signed a sponsorship deal, and that deal is with the Celtic Way, which is a brand new online platform, Tony, which you write for. By the way, you're very prolific on the website, very prolific indeed. And this is part and parcel of us developing A Celtic State of Mind, because a massive part of that is we want to keep the content free. And one of the ways to do that is by getting sponsorship on board, which we have been working on behind the scenes for several months. So we've just managed to secure a couple of sponsorship deals for the channel, and this is the first one. This is the announcement. We are now sponsored by the Celtic Way. All the details are at the bottom of the screen, and you probably have seen them on social media because guys like Tony Hamilton, that's a different Tony. Tony Haggerty, I don't think Tony Hamilton writes for them. He might do. I've spoken to him in a while. He's not been on Twitter for a while. Tony Haggerty, you write on a regular basis your musings on Celtic. So when you actually come back onto the bulletin, you've already, assembled your thought process in your mind about the Celtic team. And now we're going to start off about the goalkeeper. I was having a look through over the last few days the amount of players Celtic have been, linked to, and unless it's one that's going to be box office or it's almost there, it's almost over the line, we don't tend to labour that on the show, Tony. We don't go through all the targets. I mean, there may well be at some point a need for us to go through transfer targets leading up to the end of the window, but there are so many. We could dedicate every single show every day to who's coming, who's not, etc. But there is certainly one thing that isn't going away, and this is this massive question mark over Barkas. The unfortunate thing for me was he makes a couple of good saves. And even during the commentary, Chris Sutton, Chris Sutton, who I like. I think he's a straight down the middle guy when it comes to commentating on Celtic. And he says, this could be a game changer for Barkas. But by the end of his involvement in the game, we know he was taken off, obviously. I'm looking at him with the same doubts. Tony, just before we came on, and I mentioned it at the weekend during the game, I watched that goal where he's left the near post wide open, and I'm thinking Ferencvaros all over again. Now, if he's not learned anything in the last year, he's never going to learn it. Massive concerns.
That's still that everybody was tweeting. I mean, you don't need to be a striker to know where you're going to put the ball if you're homing in on goal. Just so happened it was a deadly striker that was homing in on goal. There was no question where it was going. But my goodness, what a gap he left. I don't know any goalkeeper that would sort of say, there you go, put it there. And see, even if you telegraph it and you put it there, I'm not getting anywhere near it. Mm-hmm. It's just that you want Barkas to be a success. You're willing him to be a success, but nothing he does instills you with any confidence. Pre-season games, I don't really take too seriously, but what I do take seriously is attitude, application, and then when you go that step up in class, he didn't convince, and he'd one thing or two things to do in the Midtjylland home game, and he's made a rickets of the free kick.
Yeah,
by poor judgment, pulling your hands away. Is that a confidence thing? I don't know. You deal with it. Any goalkeeper worth their salt deals with that. You're the only one on the park that can use your hands. If you use your hands, you either catch that cleanly, or if you're worried about guys coming across you, you punch it and you punch everything else in the vicinity, but you deal with it. You get it, hands, you do whatever. You do not let it go and then turn around and think, oh no, that's in the net. I thought it was going wide. You don't think you do as a goalkeeper, because there is no hiding place when you make a mistake as a goalkeeper. But these mistakes, as you said, history is repeating itself. Mm-hmm. He did it at the exact same stage last year against Ferencvaros. And he just fails to convince. And I think there's a confidence problem with the goalkeeper, which then transmits to the defence. Because the defence have no faith and trust in him. And then it happened last year when Shane Duffy came in. There was just a lack of confidence all round. It happened on Saturday with the two boys. Granted, they're up against class opposition, and it is the only way you learn. But my goodness, Celtic were punished. And I think the manager alluded to the fact that he was disappointed with the lack of response to any kind of challenge. That was a real challenge Celtic faced in a pre-season game, and they were found wanting.
See, the big thing for me, Tony, I'm going to throw this over to Boyce because I know he's got strong views on it, but people that say this is a meaningless, friendly, don't put too much focus on it, I don't really subscribe to that, because the games that we are getting are so few and far between in terms of our preparation for the big games, which are the qualifiers for the Champions League at this stage. They're vital. They're vital to get the understanding between, that diamond of the goalkeeper and his centre halves. They're vital to get the game plan that Ange is still trying to implement in the side. But I'm looking at this situation and I'm thinking, I'm going to throw this one to Boyce. Are we going to be faced with a situation, Russell, whereby Ange sticks so rigidly to his game plan? This is how I want to play. And this is the very specific type of goalkeeper that I want to have in that game plan. And Barkas fits that mould because he's good with the ball at his feet and he can play that sweeper keeper and, he can start spraying passes to the two centre-halves who go out wide left and right. Or do we just bite the bullet and get a goalkeeper in who can command his area and not make so many shocking decisions? Because, for me, the biggest issue is he doesn't command his area, so the two centre-halves don't know if they're coming or going, right? Mm-hmm. Now, that was a huge issue last season because it was so changeable. We had three goalkeepers and a number of permutations in the centre-half positions. Or do we just go for a goalkeeper who can do that, comes in, and when you're counting on him, be that 5 minutes before the end of the first half, after you're a man down, 5 minutes after, before the final whistle, who can make that save? Now, I'm not going to bring the Fraser Forster argument into it, Russell, right? I'm not going to bring that in, but I'm just talking about a goalkeeper who can actually do the basics. I've not seen that he is that man. So Do we tear up that game plan until we get a goalie in who can do the job? And I know you have debated that fact over the last couple of weeks on social media and within the WhatsApp group. What's your thoughts at this stage? What do we do?
Well, if the game plan is playing from the back, I mean, first and foremost, what you need to be playing the ball from the back, you need to have an element of confidence about you. And like Tony touched on, the two centre-halves are so inexperienced, but yet have no faith in the voice behind them either. I know they wouldn't ever admit that, but that will be undoubted at the back of their minds that, Tony says if you make one mistake as a keeper, then it's a goal. Well, I'm actually beginning to think if you make one mistake as a centre-back, it's also a goal, because I've got no faith that he'll save any one-on-ones. I also believe that when you're playing from the back, as I say, you need to have confidence in youth. What are we doing to that confidence right now? What is, we looked at Murray and we thought, this is a shining light we're seeing right now. This is something to be quite positive about. What has the damage been done from, albeit a pre-season friendly, but I just think as a footballer, it'll be in your nature to panic when you concede 6 goals. Or not, it's going to certainly dent your confidence massively and dent your motivation for trying to adapt to this style of playing from the back when you feel, if I make a mistake here, I look like the villain as well, as much as the goalkeeper does, because he's not going to save any of these opportunities. I could potentially give up right now. So what does Ange need to do? We all need to adapt to Ange. That's what you hear. We need to adapt to Ange's philosophy, Ange's style. But Ange also is in the gig of his life right now. No two ways about it. This is the biggest job he's ever had. And he has to adapt to the club that he's managing right now and the current situation they're in. I'm not laying blame at him for finding himself in this position, but now he's in it, he is going to have to start prioritising the basics right now. And that, to me, would be getting a goalkeeper in who can talk to the defence, especially when they're so young, who can guide them, and who also knows where his goalposts are once he makes 1 yard. Once he takes a step forward, he loses all positional sense. That Antonio strike at the near post that Tony touched on, it's baffling how he has got so completely lost in terms of his positioning. I don't actually think he covered himself in glory. Their presence in the team, they'll diminish their confidence. And bear in mind, the way that we have brought, the likes of Murray into the fold is for Champions League qualifiers. This is not... These guys should have been playing... They should at least have, the odd League Cup match experience from the season before. The odd home league match, if we were on at any point a sustained win run last season, you'd like to think so. But instead, they're making competitive debuts in the games that are worth more money to us than any other. Mm-hmm. And the fact is, they've got a guy behind them that they'll have no faith in, and that I've certainly got no faith in. The Barkas experiment has lasted over a year. It's not worked. It's time to get back to basics between the sticks and get a goalie who knows how to keep the ball out the net first and foremost.
It's that nature of being decisive, Tony, making a decision, realising early doors, this hasn't worked. Yes, we're going to lose money on it. But how much more money are you going to lose if you try and persevere with it? And I think that's a great point that Russell makes. You're bringing in these kids who I totally agree with you, Russell. I think they should be better prepared, and that's not on them. That's not on Dane Murray. That's not. Welsh was thrown in last season against Rangers. Now, I know he had played against Hamilton once previously, right? That's not good enough as far as I'm concerned. Mm-hmm. Tony, we've had domestic dominance for the best part of a decade, yet we've got guys coming in. I don't expect an 18-year-old to have 50 games under his belt, but I expect a 20 or 21-year-old to have 50 games under their belt competitively, be that substitute appearances, drip feeding them into games where you're winning 3 or 4-0, which has happened numerous times over the last 10 years. We've just not had it. And then you create this conveyor belt of young players who are coming in, but they do have the experience and, coupled with perhaps a loan deal here and there. I fear for a player, Tony, like Dane Murray, who performed really well in the pre-season games. We spoke about him time and time again. But his first senior game is a Champions League qualifier with tens of millions of pounds riding on it. He's going to have to start on Wednesday night. He's going to have to start because I don't think... that Ange is going to adapt his style or shape in any way, shape or form. So he's going to start alongside Welsh. We're looking at Welsh now as being the experienced head. He only played 21 games last season. So in total, competitively, he's played 23 games for Celtic. And he's the experienced one.
There's a combined age of 39 between those two guys. One's 21, one's 18. Right?
Wow.
Lack of preparation from the top down. Ange's feeling the brunt of that now.
Yeah.
we've absolved Ange of any kind of blame for what happens in Europe. But Ange should have been back from the moment he came in the door. I said it last time I appeared on the pod. Why didn't Celtic announce 1, 2, 3, 4 players, in the wake of Ange coming in? Because if they are to be believed, and they were scouting this guy before he came in the door, then they should have said, "You're the man." Because the how things gone by the wayside. Get a list of players. Start getting your list of players, so that when we unveil you in the coming days, we can unveil Starfelt, we can unveil Fukushima, we can unveil A&R, right? There should have been wanted. And you can see Ange's frustration with that, because he's said that they've dithered, they've hung around waiting. I don't know what they were waiting for. And this is the situation that the new bosses have enforced upon the new man.
Yep.
This is where we find ourselves at. You cannot blame the players. You cannot blame Welsh. You cannot blame Dane Murray, because it is all we've got. Any player coming into that team is going to improve it. And it's fine. And I've said before, in a month, 2 months, 3 months, Celtic will be a far better structured, organised and disciplined outfit. But it was the here and now, because the here and now are the games that lead you to get 30 or 40 million quid. And again, we spoke about it. What Celtic playing at? Just play Russian roulette with the Champions League every year and think maybe the chamber's loaded, maybe it's not. And then Midtjylland could join a litany of clubs that have put us out. Braga, Maribor, Cluj, AEK Athens. You know them all, right? Mm-hmm. The list, it's an ever-burgeoning list because of the same failures by the Celtic board. They never arm a manager. They're always ill-prepared. So I get that these guys like Dane Murray, confidence might be destroyed a wee bit. But, as you say, he's going in again.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And he's going in again with the caveat hanging over our head. If we go out here, we're losing a lot of money. And it's not on his head, but that's the way he'll feel. Because as Russell say, how's that? How's your nerves now, Dane? And well,
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And it's unfair to put a kid of 18 in that situation. But that's what Celtic have done. And Ange knows it. And that's why his wee bit of niggle and frustrations are coming out of his interviews. And he's quite right to say it. Because he calls it like it is. And he's telling you, this is where we are. I'm trying to do things here, but I need players. I need to be backed here. And I wrote one of the first columns I wrote in the Celtic Way. I finished off with the line, meet the new bosses, same as the old bosses. Mm-hmm. I'm further to think that that's true. And a lot of Celtic supporters are beginning to question whether that adage might be true or not.
Well, Tony, there's a massive discussion point there. There really is, because you've said that we're absolving Ange of the blame, which we are. There will come a point where we can no longer do that.
Yeah.
There also will become a point when Don Mackay's involvement will be scrutinised far more closely as well. So at what point does that happen? Has it already begun?
So keeping the song analogy going then, ground control to Major Dom. I think that's what
classic.
That's what Andy's saying now, isn't it? Ground control to Major Dom.
I'm liking the David Bowie vibe with Starfelt coming in, and now this one, Tony. I like it.
So we keep that going. But I mean, it's short of SOS time, isn't it?
You made a great point there. You combined the ages of our centre-half partnership, who are, their combined age is still less than mine, so thanks for reminding me. What I was going to say is there are teams that we're coming up against in Europe. Now, back in the day, etc., harking back, you'd come up against the side and, if they put you out, I remember, let's say, centenary season, Borussia Dortmund, you move on, and some of the European campaigns that I've watched as a Celtic supporter, you're going out to big clubs. Sporting Lisbon knocked us out, Tony, you'll remember, we've been beaten by PSG, Barcelona. Mm-hmm. But what we're getting to the point now is that we're coming up against clubs who they're, to our mind, kind of unknown quantities. But what we then see is that they stick and they hang about in and around the Champions League and they progress. So talking about ages, Midtjylland as a club are only 22 years of age. as a club. Right now, Celtic, and we pride ourselves on the traditions and the rich, illustrious history we have in European football. In 22 years, Midtjylland have overtaken Celtic in 22 years. And I think that is astonishing. And that, for me, should be an eye-opening moment for everyone at Celtic. What is the Celtic way? And I don't mean our new sponsor. What is the Celtic way? There's the question, right? Is the Celtic way that pathway up to the entrance to Celtic Park? Or is it to continually look at a situation where we know it's the biggest income stream the club can ever have, yet be criminally under-prepared for it? So, Russell, has that become the Celtic way?
Oh, it's certainly more the norm now, isn't it, that we don't make the Champions League? I mean, I think we've had 9 free hits at it. We qualified, I think it was 3 out of 9. That's a third of the times, and that was on the Champions route. This time we're on an even harder route that started earlier. We all knew this. Everyone knew this. We let Neil Lennon go months ago. Everything seems to be done in slow motion. I don't understand it. And just back on the combined age thing, as you know, I'm a wee bit weird with players' ages. The combined age of those two also is the same as the goalkeeper across the city, who happens to be, arguably, I think, their biggest difference in winning that league title last year. Amongst other good performers, he's worth 12 to 15 points a season to them. We certainly don't have someone like that between the sticks, and that is even at 39 years old. So, and I've never, seen him play as a sweeper keeper, by the way, either. So that does highlight the inexperience at the back as well, that side of it. But in terms of the Celtic way, we're looking to bring youth players. We all love seeing youth players brought in the team, but we want them to have a fair crack at the whip. I don't want to see Welsh getting dumped into a Celtic Rangers match as his first start or second start for the club. What sort of pressure was that to put on him? I don't want to see Murray having to play in £40 million bounty matches. It just doesn't make any sense. What I can't understand is if Ange's came in here, we had concerns about whether he was going to be a yes man. Remember, there was talk about that. Now, Ange interviews to me are extremely refreshing. I like the way he talks. I think he does tell it like it is, as Tony says. You wonder if that attitude's getting replicated then from Ange towards board. Why is the action taking so long to get done? Because it sounds to me that he's not a man who minces his words. It is glaringly obvious he needed a defender for both Midtjylland ties and a goalkeeper. My concern would be that Ange perhaps seen something in Barkas none of us can. But in terms of the defence, not because he doesn't have faith in Welsh or Murray, by the way, far from it. You would say on paper, you need to have some experience at centre-back in a Champions League qualifier, And that, to me, is something any manager worth the salt would have pitched to the board. You then combine that with Ange's direct style, and you have to then question why are they still, doing things so slowly. Why is Starfelt... Imagine if we go out on Wednesday and then Starfelt comes in and looks like an absolute boss at the back. What's the first question?
It's had an insult to injury, and we've been there before.
Well, the Celtic way should be Celtic always competing to win the league title and getting to the Champions League group stages, or at least striving to do that. Ad nauseam. Prepare. No, constantly evolve and develop. As I keep saying it, and I've said it for long, act like a big club, please, right? But the same mistakes keep getting made. Why can't Celtic compete at both domestically and in Europe in the Champions League group stages? Somebody has to really, really pin me to this chair, stop me from walking back and forth in it, and say, this is why we can't. Because I refuse to believe that. I refuse to believe it. Till I'm nailed to a chair and explain why we can't do that. Our club fails to evolve in the summer every year. Every year we fail to evolve. We just grind to a halt. If we win the league, great. But we fail to evolve, and then we end up chasing our tail, trying to get players in, and usually the Champions League horse is bolted by the time we get players in. And as Russell says, Starfelt comes in at Tynecastle and has a stormer. We lose to Midtjylland in midweek. Fans go off their nut. Again, lack of preparation. And I've said this before, Celtic fans know their history. The only people that don't know their history at this moment in time are the board of directors. Because making the same mistakes at the same time every year, every summer. The Champions League fixtures roll around at the same time every summer. It's funny that, isn't it? It's bewildering.
The two big things you've mentioned there, Tony, the youth aspect and the recruitment aspect are part of, or should be part of, that mindset that Celtic have. They should be part of this fabled Celtic way. But they have become inept in their approach to youth development and also recruitment. So Dane Murray, I think, should have a bright future in the game from what we've seen. Yeah. He's made a couple of mistakes. That's understandable. We're up against a West Ham side who throw on Okoflex and he scores a goal against us, right? There's a player that we only utilised because we were 16 men down in 2 league games after Dubai. 13 men plus 3 staff, 13 men down in the 2 games in January. It's the only reason Okoflex got a sniff at a game at Celtic, and he's come on and he's showed us what he can do. I don't know what's going to happen with the boy's career, but he certainly didn't get a fair crack at the whip at Celtic. We've been hearing reports this morning that yet again one of our young talents is being sniffed about at by an English club. Leeds United are looking at Leo Hjeld. Now, we've seen it time and time again, players leaving for various clubs, Tony, because they haven't been developed properly. Now, they've got the talent, otherwise Bayern Munich and Manchester City and Leeds United wouldn't be interested, West Ham, they wouldn't be interested. We can develop a player, but we just can't get them into that. So that's an issue, and that in the past, the Celtic way would have been that we reared their own, we put them into the first team, and they became an integral part of every Celtic team. You look at every Celtic team from the past. Lisbon Lions is a famous one, of course. The 7-1 team, the double winning team from the 1950s, the 10 men that won the league, the centenary team, and have a look at the amount of players who were homegrown within all the big teams throughout Celtic's history. We don't have it anymore. Yeah, people might say Callum McGregor, James Forrest. That's 2 who are now getting to close to 30 years of age. Where's the 25-year-olds? Where's the 22-year-olds? They're not there. We've not had that for a long time. And then we talk about the recruitment, because we're saying we need to get these bodies in, Tony. My biggest concern just now? What if the recruitment strategy's not changed? So we've just offloaded Sved, right? I did a wee thing about a year ago, worked out, just based on transfer fees alone, Sved, Kouassi, Hendry, Bayo, how much did they cost us for every 90 minutes they played for Celtic? 220 grand. That doesn't include wages. Now, that's bad business. That's a bad recruitment strategy. Has it improved? Are we doing it any different? The only sign that we are, Russell, is obviously Ange bringing in Furuhashi, right? So there's one sign that it's different. But how often are we going to get that? Are all the other players going through the same process? Because I think they probably are at the moment. And that process, that recruitment process, has been hit or miss for several years. So we can't afford to bring in 3 or 4 or 5 players over the next few weeks using the same strategy, because what we'll get is maybe 1 or 2 of them actually making the grade at Celtic. Yeah, absolutely. And then again, you've got to be looking as well and think, Ange is an experienced manager. He'll be able to identify targets. We were told that, this was going to be one of the great benefits of hiring Ange was the fact that he's going to know markets that we don't normally operate in. The Kyogo signing being a prime example, that's got his fingerprints all over it. I'm all for that, because it's someone that's got buy-in from the manager from the get-go. My concern would be, and by the way, I thought, I really like the look of Abada. I definitely do. But you are looking at the traits and you're going, that's the same agent as Soro. Same agent as a couple of others that we've signed as well. I can't remember their names because I'm hopeless at that sort of thing. But it's like, well, there's a bit of a connection there that doesn't seem to, be that all that different from the previous policy, or is it the same one ongoing? I would say I would use that as an example to suggest it is still the same recruitment policy. We hear about lists. Remember, there was a list released a couple of years ago and all that. We were still looking at those players a year later. We look at has there been a list left and given to Ange with recommendations? Well, I'm sorry, but the signing strategy hasn't got us to where we should have been. And that is a regular Champions League side. I look back to when we went out in Rodgers' third season. I wonder, I don't know the facts, but I wonder if we are one of the only clubs, if not the only club, to fail to qualify via the Champions route of the Champions League, having turned over £100 million the season before.
You try and quantify that and think the odds were stacked in our favour and we couldn't do it. See, when the odds are stacked against your favour, all the more need to have the side ready for these matches. It's sadly not. You're talking about youth players leaving. I think, they need to see a strategy. You need to look at maybe some of the youth players like Held right now going, well, do I really fancy being developed in a side where I could be literally told at the last minute you're going to be playing one of our biggest games of the season as my competitive debut? That is quite a daunting sort of few examples that he'll now see of that. Mm-hmm. And you have players have agents in their ear now as well going, whoa, red flag. This could be the make or break of your career here. That's too much pressure for you to be getting. You need to be developed, you need to be nurtured, and you need to be integrated into the first team in matches of far less profile, less pressure, and brought in step by step. And that sort of guide actually being explained to these players as well would be very beneficial. It would be nice for the players to know what this path, their journey at Celtic is going to be. Mm-hmm. And judging by the departures we've seen, admittedly Bayern Munich, huge step up, but you look at the West Ham one and you think to yourself, well, it's going to be a lot harder, you would think, on paper to get into West Ham's first team, yet the progression and the development plan that they will have and they will have explained to Okoflex made more sense.
It's a clear path, Russell.
Yep.
Because the two examples we've spoken about, Tony, right? So you've got Stephen Welsh. We're going to throw you into a massive game against Rangers, having played one game for the first team and a few games for Greenock Morton at right back. 21 years of age, we're going to throw you in. There's your path. Dane Murray, you've been playing against 18-year-old kids for your entire football career over the last X amount of months, years or seasons. Yeah, we'll throw you in a Champions League qualifier. There's your path. It's just panic. Yeah, it's just absolute panic.
Absolutely strikes a panic. And do you know what? I'm going to go pretty one day, mate. I've said this before as well. See, when it comes to recruitment and signing policy, sign good players. Sign good players. I mean, what's Celtic's problem that they go out and sign guys that are hopeless or that will never kick a ball for the first team, and the money they've frittered on guys like Sved as an example, because they're using certain agents? Stop. That has to stop. Just sign good players. Trust the manager. If he's got a list of targets, then you work your way through them. The Furuhashi deal was done like that, overnight, bang. The hand of Ange, right? And people have a look at it. Look at the guy's clips on YouTube. They think he's going to be a player. I tell you what, see if you are signed for Celtic right now and you can't improve that team, then you're not. So it's money frittered away again, right? So I mean, sometimes my outlook in football is pretty simple, but I think when it comes to signing players, go and sign good ones. Go and sign a good goalkeeper. This guy can't be trusted. He's not a good goalkeeper. Right, so you need a good goalkeeper. What's the problem here? How can you not see that? Go and do it. We've needed a right back since, I think, time of perpetual motion. Since Danny, I think the club, we've needed a right back. We've had problems. So go and get one. And it's other people's job within the department or the club that is Celtic Football Club to identify that. But I've said before, see if they can't do it, we'll do it. I'll do it. Give me a league of DVDs to watch of, and I'll come back with a list like that of right backs that can play for Celtic or that can fit the bill. You could do it. Russell could do it. You know what I mean?
What I used to like, Tony, is, and I know I sometimes, like yourself, I hark back to what it was like, and I know it's changed, and I know that the reports that are coming through for potential targets, a lot of it is data driven, which, by the way, contrary to some people's belief, I believe in data. I absolutely do believe in the science of it, and it needs to be part of the process of bringing players in, developing players, and setting up teams against specific opposition. 100% for that. But I always go back to McCann. Fergus McCann had a policy whereby if you signed a player, you must have seen them in the flesh. The only player in his time that he broke that rule for was Harold Bratback. And he only broke it because Wim Janssen, and Fergus McCann, they didn't quite come to blows over it, but he convinced Fergus McCann, we don't have to go and see him, we need this player now, and they signed him. I think the fee at the time was something just over 2 million, something like that.
2 million, I think it was, yeah.
And the one thing, and I'll bring this up as often as I possibly can, is that the person who went out to look at Raphael, who was playing for Grêmio at the time, right? I've gone out to watch Raphael, and we ended up spending £5 million on him. There was a tricky wee player in that same team, Tony, called Ronaldinho, who sometime later went for a smaller fee than what we paid for Raphael. So there is always benefit in actually going and watching these players. Because you know what? You might go to watch a Barcast, but you might find that there's somebody else within that team who fits the bill in another area of the park. Massive, massive concerns. Another concern that is a white elephant that we need to address, Tony Haggerty, and I'll come to you first. Leigh Griffis. Now, Leigh Griffis has been spoken about probably more than any other individual player on this podcast in the last year. The vast majority of it has been for non-footballing reasons. Now, he makes his return to the Celtic team. There's 18,500 at Celtic Park there. You know, they can make a noise, and yeah, they did make a noise. And some would say it was mixed. Some would say it was veering on, 70-30 against him being on the park. What do we do about this? This is a sideshow, I think, at this moment in time, Tony, that Ange Postecoglou and Celtic don't need.
I think the manager said it all on Saturday when the question was asked of him, and he said that he wouldn't insult the Celtic supporters by telling them what to think, because they've got every right to voice their opinion. And he said that Leigh has to work hard to get back into their thoughts and their hearts and minds. But again, if the Celtic supporters decide that's not enough, then that's up to them. You know, problem here is Leigh Griffis has been tried by the Twitterati, found guilty. You know, everybody's acting as judge and jury with Leigh Griffis. Important to stress that the law of the land and the club have conducted an investigation, and there's found no criminality. Fair enough. But I think in the eyes of the supporters, and I wrote this on the Celtic Way yesterday, he's morally bankrupt. Right? The actions of Leigh Griffis off the park can be probably summed up as morally reprehensible. And he will go to other opposing grounds this season, and he will suffer the wrath of that, what comes with that. And he has brought that upon himself. Of that, there is no doubt. Now, you fall into two categories here as a Celtic supporter. Any player that wears a Celtic jersey, you support them, or you boo someone like Leigh Griffis, and that's up to yourself. I would never dream of telling Celtic supporters what to do on that issue either. I'm with Ange on that. But the club are not tearing up his contract, because if they were going to do that, they would have done that right now, and he would not have featured on Saturday against West Ham. He has one shot. He's scored a lot of goals in his career. Leigh Griffis has one shot now, and the only shot that he has now is a redemption shot. But he's going to have to work so hard to get himself back and win over the hearts and minds of the Celtic supporters, who, in vast numbers in that 18,500 crowd on Saturday, had made up their mind. And I think it was Colin Watt put something on the group chat. Can you imagine a ground that's full? This character, Celtic player, is a divisive character now. He's dividing the support. He is polarising it. Does Ange need it? I don't know. But maybe Ange thinks Eddie's the next one out the exit door. I need him. And I need him to maybe try and do what he does best, and that's score goals and contribute. Can he? It's up to Leigh now, but most people would say he should be hunted out the door. That's, I think, as you say, that's the majority of the Celtic supporters' feeling. But the problem is, in the eyes of the law, he's done nothing wrong, so he reverts back to what he was and what he is. He's employed as a Celtic footballer, you know, and you work no people work in the Premiership, no players bigger than the club. True, totally. I totally get that. But as I say, he's been subject to some kind of trial over social media, and you know, and there's bigger trials coming for Leigh Griffis, the manager said himself. You know, moving forward, and when he goes to every away ground this season, he will hear it. You don't even need to say the names that he's going to be called, and by his irresponsible, and I say the word reprehensible actions. He has brought that upon himself, So it's actually up to Ange and Celtic. There's a morality issue now, moving forward. So what do you do? Do you wait till you go to Celtic go to Tynecastle first game of the season?
Yep.
I wrote yesterday in the Celtic Way the Hearts supporters need no more excuses to hate Lee Griffis. What if he plays any part in that game? What's that atmosphere going to be like? It's going to be toxic.
It normally is.
Yeah.
Without this added,
even more toxic.
Yeah.
So you add a layer of toxicity to every away ground Celtic go this season with Lee Griffis in their squad, and that's what's coming. And that's the moral issue that now Celtic face as a club moving forward. But Ange is acting and giving him the benefit of the doubt, saying, you're employed as a Celtic player. What can I do? You are here and I have to put up with you. And then you say, get rid of him, get shot of him, sell him, whatever. What club right now would touch Lee Griffis or would want Lee Griffis?
I think it's a massive issue that's not going to go away, because there's also the question, Russell, that we have just discussed what is undoubtedly going to happen whenever he goes to away grounds. I mean, it's happened at his home grounds, right? And as the crowds filter back in bigger numbers, I think someone might be able to update me, but the last I'd heard, Tony, 2,000 Hearts fans were going to be at Tynecastle on the 31st of July. So as the crowds start filtering in even bigger numbers, that is going to grow and the abuse will continue and it will get worse and more vitriolic. And then you think, right, regardless of how we got to this point, as Tony says, he is our player and there is an issue of us protecting that player. You then ask yourself, at what point is it a bad idea to have him in the squad for his own benefit?
Absolutely. I mean, I think as well, we can actually tie the show back to where we were talking about 20 minutes ago. Is it because transfer recruitment is so slow that if Ange was to have discarded, or Celtic were to have discarded with Lee Griffiths, Ange has absolutely no faith that there would be a replacement signed in time for the start of the season that he's seen that was adequate to do it, and therefore his hand has been forced to get him some much needed minute time, as he may well need to be used. In terms of the support, for me, when the division arises like it has, and we've heard some mad reports from the stands as well, not to go into that, but I mean, it's complete division, as you say. Once it gets to that, for me, I've defended Lee Griffiths, in terms of before about getting the new deal. Now it doesn't make any sense for Celtic to hold on to him unless the reason is it's a needs must exercise right now. But when you see that, the booing and all that of a player at a ground that's, under a third full, what is that going to be like when it is full? Do we really need all the fans infighting? Because for me right now, there's a slim chance Celtic can win that title back, okay? A slim chance. One of the absolute fundamental necessaries are going to be unity across the whole club if we're to have any sort of fighting chance. Right now, we don't have that, and it's not Celtic's fault. Now, I appreciate about in the eyes of the law and that, but at the end of the day, whether right or wrong, judge and jury will be played by the fans, and they will do it via booing, via applauding, via heckling, via cheering. And when you've got a complete mix of that, and like you say, I think that there was probably more in favour of the booing sort of option. When you've got that toxic atmosphere being created, is that genuinely going to be a help to Ange in his first season at Celtic as we chase what is a 25-point deficit from last season? We need to, at the very least, be a united front. And unfortunately, Lee Griffiths being a part of that does not add up to a united front whatsoever. And therefore, the simplest thing would be for us to cut our losses and let him go.
Interesting points, plenty more to discuss. For anyone who has just tuned in and they're wondering why we have some new logos on the screen, the Celtic Way are now the official sponsors of A Celtic State of Mind. You might have noticed that our very own Anthony Haggerty has been writing for the page quite prolifically. Tony, I've got to be said, I'm very I mean, it only takes me 5 or 6 years to write a book. So I'll tell you what, that's why I don't write anymore. But well done to you and how prolific you have been. All the details around the Celtic Way are on the screen, and on the ticker tape we'll be sharing some links as well. You'll notice over my left shoulder is the first item of Axel merchandise, fully embroidered hoops with our 2 crests. You will be able to buy that very shortly on axom.net. We've got some other merchandise on its way. The sponsorship, the merch, that kind of thing is why we are able to put out daily content free charge, not just live broadcasts. Kelvin, our videographer, and myself will be down in England on Wednesday filming for a brand new Axom show, which will be on the YouTube channel. So if you're watching on YouTube, or even if you're not, get onto the YouTube channel and subscribe to it, because every single month you'll be put into a free prize draw where you can win fantastic items, I've got to say, be that Verve Platinum discs, signed Bertie Auld jerseys. Every month there's new items going to be available. And also we're giving away records and all that kind of stuff. So get involved in the Axom movement. Some might even call it the Axom cult. It has been known to be called the Axom cult. And get involved in the chat. Just like Roy. Roy has got involved in what a picture that is of George McCluskey. Look at that. That's fantastic, isn't it? Is that the 1980 Scottish Cup final, Tony?
That's the 1980 Scottish Cup final, aye.
After he's diverted Danny McGrain's shot into the net to win us a cup. One of my favourite Celtic images is that in full flight. Love it. Roy Croppy. Barkas looks terrified. He's not confident, and those around him aren't confident in him. Goalkeeper urgently needed. What I would also say is, Sviatchenko, great example, Boyce. Not only is he terrified, the opposition are playing on it. Target him, constantly target him. They're seeing him as the weakest link at Celtic at the moment. We've got Johnny Boy 67, welcome back. Saturday shows we're needing to be patient, and also shows we have a lot of work to do, and that includes transfers, which is worrying, as Tony says, because it takes us so long to get them over the line. Now, we've spoken about Lee Griffis, we've spoken about Barkey. The other big question mark at the moment, some might think it's a matter of time, Russell, before Odsonne Edouard leaves the building. Not being hugely impressed by his performances throughout the pre-season and into the new season. Albin Ayeti was missing. I think he had a slight knock, so he wasn't ready for the game against West Ham. But I pointed out that Furuhashi can play left and centre, and Abada can play right and centre. Is it a case that we should actually cash in Edouard? There's, transfer fees in the region of 20 to 22 million pounds being quoted, and focus on bringing in the goalie, 2 right backs, a left back, 2 centre halves. Because offensively, I'm not saying we're perfect, but we really need to shut the back door. Yeah, I mean, there were stories circulating apparently that fees in the region of £21 million for Edward, and I appreciate, obviously, we all get a bit giddy about that sort of number. My attitude tends to be £21 million is a standard fee for a bang average EPL player down there between those clubs. So I would still, though, by all means, accept the offer, because he's only got the year left, and it looks like he's, his head is out the door, I think, so his feet should follow. I love that line. That's a belter. That JP Mason. Oh, legend. So yeah, I mean, you think what you can reinvest between the Aya money and the Edouard money. My concern, of course, is a lot of the time when we're in these sort of situations where we recoup fees, we don't actually spend a lot of the money that we bring in for players, or maybe as much of it as we would like. Now, you look at the Kieran Tierney sale, and then you think, we brought in a couple of £5 million players last summer. Things felt. We got in a loan deal for Shane Duffy that was £2 million. On paper, this all looked pretty good. So would the scattergun approach work again this summer, where we're bringing in 5-6 bodies at £4-5 million? Well, we're simply going to have to. And we're going to have to back ourselves to get them right this time, and that last summer's disaster isn't repeated. We certainly need backup options in defence now. We need reinforcement, I should have said that. Reinforcements in the full-back area. Right back, as Tony says, has went on forever. And if Edouard doesn't want to be there, and there is some sort of bid, I'm not saying for a fact it'll be 21 million, by the way, but that was the sort of rumoured price. I just think what we could achieve with that, with reinforcing the team, would be fantastic. They need help. That is undeniable. And I wonder
there's a bit of Edward who's lost his killer instinct in front of goal of late as well. He doesn't seem as deadly as what he did, because I mean, bear in mind last season, whilst he might have looked off, out of sorts at times, he still got 26 goals, didn't he? He's still the top scorer in Scotland. So I'm not saying that's the biggest achievement in the world either, but I would like to see us try and get someone with, real sort of goal-scoring instincts into that team, because I think we're going to be a team that plays a lot of pace, creates a lot of chances from the wide areas. We need someone with that ruthless streak, although they are not to a penny.
No, you're right. I mean, we've already offloaded Ayer, Tony. You're quite happy to sell Ayer to help fund or feed into the rebuilds. We're at that point now with Edward, aren't we? Where, we're expecting to see that unveiling at a club down south.
I also think there should be a mutual partner of the ways now, because the player's head's no in it, and it hasn't been for some time. You can see that, because he's missing chances. Yeah. The old Edward would have gobbled up easily for breakfast, lunch and dinner, no problem at all. Yeah. And that's fine. And I think he's come to his end of his Celtic chapter, and that part of life in his career. I just don't want it to turn sour, because Edward's a phenomenal talent. Mm-hmm. And wonderful, wonderful moments. I just hate the fans to turn on him and for it all to go sour and he leave with a bad taste in the mouth, fans getting on his back. The guy clearly wants to leave. Celtic clearly want to sell, and it's just the club who come in with the offer that you can't knock back. And if the 21.5 million from Brighton or whoever is to be relieved, then Celtic should really be biting the hand off for that and saying, right, this is it. You're going there, or you can go there if you want to go there away and discuss your personal terms and do the deal. And it goes with your goodwill, because as I say, he has given us some outstanding moments, but it's clear his heart and his head aren't in it. And we accept that. There was always going to be a shelf life with a player like Edward. But what I will say is with the Edward money, if we're assuming it's going to be between 20 and 22 million, and the Iron money, 13.5 with add-ons, the guts of that, and I'm talking between 20 and 25 million, has to be given to Jans to reinvest in the team. None of this, holding it for a rainy day, right?
The rainy day is here.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly.
It's raining. The hard rains are falling. He said, the hard rain's going to fall. It's falling at this moment. It's battering it down over Paradise. So he has to be given at least 25, if not all of it, to spend. I know Celtic don't do that, but Celtic are in dire. Not just need one or two players are good additions. They're in dire need of between 5, arguably 5 to 7 players. And that's a harsh reality. That's a fact. You know what I mean? So, the players don't come cheap. I get it. But maybe look more closer to home. Maybe bring in a couple. Nisbet, for example, just off the top of my head. If you're going to try and bring in a striker per se, you can maybe get them. They can't complain about holding clubs to ransom for the likes of Ayer and Edward, and then if Hibs turn around and say 3 or 4 million quid for Nisbet and say we're not paying that, you can't have it both ways.
No,
you've got to be serious.
That makes sense.
You've got to be serious, right? And if these clubs see you getting that money in, they're quite right to say, Nisbet, 4 million quid, how serious are they? If you want them, go and get them. Don't waste our time. Don't waste your time. And don't get into some long, protracted thing which saw you lose one of the best midfielders the country's produced, i.e. John McGinn, because you you haggled over 500 grand, I think, when it came down to it. Silly. Absolutely silly. So you get this kind of money in for a rebuild, you give it to the manager, and if he says, I want him, and him, you go and get him, and him, whoever they may be. And then the manager you trust, but you don't start haggling with clubs like Hibs or Aberdeen or St Johnstone or whoever it may be if you're looking closer to home for some of those targets, when the very thing you've done is hold out for as much money as you can get from the likes of Brentford and possibly Brighton for Edward. You can't do that and then play the same kind of game with other Scottish clubs. If you're
absolutely
going to target players from Scottish clubs, which in the immediacy of Celtic's need, I think they have to do that.
You've got to, because there's no time to adapt to the game. You know, you're going to be playing the same opposition as you had whilst being a Hibs or an Aberdeen player or St Johnstone, as you mentioned. So you're spot on. You're absolutely spot on. Now, Kenny points out over 1,400. We're almost at 1,600 watching live at the moment. So give us the thumbs up, because it's all about the algorithm. I'm not quite sure how it works, Russell, but you thumbs it up, you subscribe, you do all that kind of stuff, and more people see the video. And the Axom cult will continue to grow. And that's what it's all about. Anybody who is noticing the Celtic Way banners, yes, this is our second sponsorship deal. The first one was with a betting company, which caused a lot of issues with people who don't want us to be sponsored by a betting company. We're now sponsored by a site, a broadcast, a platform that is all about Celtic. So that's the reason we have the Celtic Way on the screen. Now, before we run out of time, because we can't run out of time without talking about the unveiling of the monument for Angorton War yesterday, Tony Haggerty at St Mary's in the Carlton, the perfect place for such a beacon that will remind everybody passing by that, millions of Irish immigrants died during the Great Hunger, and which started in 1845. It eventually created a need for a charitable organisation to set up a football club in Glasgow. And that's exactly where we started the Celtic Football Club, because by 1887 things hadn't got much better for the Irish in Glasgow, Tony. The famous signs up on the windows, no blacks, no dogs, no Irish, were prevalent in and around the city. And this is a shining beacon to remind everybody of their ancestry. It's been a long, long time coming. We spoke to Jeanette Findlay a couple of years ago now, talking about the actual the design of that monument, that statue, and also the fundraiser that went behind that to try and raise the funds. We got Bull of Vogue in at Gorbal Sound to do a session, and they sang their song, Angorton War, to raise cash for this monument. It's a fantastic day yesterday where it's been unveiled. Tony Haggerty, how important is this for the Glasgow Irish and for the Irish all over Scotland?
I think if you know your history, then that monument will stand as a testament to that. And there's no better place for it to be. And I think it's a poignant monument. Everybody knows the story behind it. And I think most Irish Catholics or Celtic supporters will pay that monument a visit at some point and have their own personal reflection beside it. And it's long overdue, because there's been monuments all over the world, hasn't there? But there wasn't one in Glasgow. And I think it's to the credit of the people that fought for the monument to be placed in Glasgow, because a lot of the Irish Catholics ended up settling here, and as you say, they formed the football club, which is now known as Glasgow Celtic, for those very reasons. And I think, I think as a historical and poignant monument and testament, then it's certainly something that every Celtic supporter of Irish Catholic descent, and maybe some of them who are not Irish Catholic, will want to see anyway, and have their own private moment and thoughts with it, because their ancestry could probably be traced back to Ireland.
Yeah.
I think most people will pay that a visit at some point in the near future, and they say have a moment to reflect, and a private moment to themselves, and they'll enjoy it. They'll feel sad as well, but they'll look forward to a bright future, hopefully.
Yeah, I think it is so important, vitally important. It's taken a long, long time. And what I also love and what I'm proud of when it comes to Celtic Football Club, because, we're very critical of the club, but we've maintained the Irish heritage. We've maintained and always been proud of the Irish roots, Tony, whereas a lot of the other clubs who were set up for similar reasons all around Britain kind of almost disowned their Irish heritage in time. And Celtic have never done that. You think about teams like Dundee Hibernian, or Hibernian himself, taking the name Hibernia, which is the Latin name for Ireland, and, stripping the club a lot of them have stripped the club of their Irish identities. You know, Manchester United, when they were founded, it was for similar reasons than the team in Dundee, the team in Edinburgh, the team in Glasgow. But Celtic have held true with their Glasgow roots. And I think that it's also something, Tony, that's, going back to, if you know the history, whenever you're trying to show people who are maybe not from this part of the world what Celtic are all about, and you take them to various places in Glasgow, even maybe on match day, and give them that full experience. That is one of the areas you would have visited in any case, but there's something extra to talk about, and people can be educated on that. It's so important. So well done to the fundraisers. It's massive, a massive achievement. It's been a long, long time coming. And what I would say is, if you want to read a phenomenal piece of writing, Tony, then go and read Kevin McKenna's piece on it. Check him out on Twitter. He's got a link on his Twitter page today, and read Kevin McKenna's article on the unveiling of that monument, because, as always, Tony, it's fantastically written, because Kevin is a tremendous writer. So there we have it. We've had a fantastic day of discussion all around Celtic Football Club. It's been the Axon Bulletin on a Monday. I'm here replacing Amy. Yes, it may not look as good, but Amy will be back next week to join Tony and Russell on the Axon Bulletin. I've just got to thank everybody for getting involved via Twitter, Facebook and on YouTube. If you haven't done so already, get subscribing on the YouTube channel, and you'll be in line for big prizes, Celtic related and otherwise. We're in for another couple of awards as well. I don't know if I mentioned that we did win an award once back in 2018. We're back in for the Football Content Award. The big one that I would love to win, and I'd love to win it because it's very representative of Celtic's roots, is the Charitable Award. And we're up for that award because 20 Celtic podcasts came together on a Celtic State of Mind back in December, and Celtic fans were massive in raising 27 grand for 4 different charities. So we're up for an award. Visit our socials. After today or tomorrow, we'll have all the details on axom.net as well, and give us a vote. See if you can send us down south to gate crash their party and win another one. That's what it's all about. Thank you, Tony Haggerty and Russell Boyce, for joining me once again on A Celtic State of Mind.